Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajakacharya Nitya Leela Pravishta His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Samstapakacharya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya Naranchaiva narotamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke Bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, texts 9 and 10. The chapter is titled Description of the Kingdom of God. Text 9, I'll read text 9. Text 10 is on the board. Yes. The text 9 has a small translation and purport. So we'll read that also and then we'll go on to text 10. Text 9. Tvam vidhatsva bhūmaṁs tamasā lupta-karmaṇām adabhra-dayayā dṛṣṭyā āpannān arhasīkṣitum. Translation. The demigods prayed to Brahmā, "Please look upon us mercifully, for we have fallen into a miserable condition. Because of the darkness, all our work has been suspended." Purport. Because of complete darkness throughout the universe, the regular activities and engagements of all the different planets were suspended. In the north and south poles of this planet, there are sometimes no divisions of day and night. Similarly, when the sunlight does not approach the different planets within the universe, there is no distinction between day and night. Text 10. Esha Deva Dite Garbha Oja Kashyapam Arpitam Dishas Timirayan Sarva Vardate Agnir Ivaidasi Esha Deva Ditir Garbha Oja Kashyapam Arpitam Dishastimirayan Sarva Vardategnir Ivaidasi Esha Deva Ditir Garbha Oja Kashyapam Arpitam Dishastimirayan Sarva Vardategnir Ivaidasi Esha Deva Ditir Garbha Oja Kashyapam Arpitam Dishastimirayan Sarva Vardategnir Ivaidasi. Tamarpitam Dishastimirayan Sarva Vardategnir Ivaidasi Esha Deva Ditir Garbha Oja Kashyapam Arpitam Timirayan Sarva Vardategnir Ivaidasi Esha Deva Ditir Garbha Oja Kashyapam Arpitam Sarva Dategnir Ivaidasi. Ladies, Esha Deva Diter Garbha Oja Kashyapamarpitam Dishastimirayan Sarva Vardategnir Ivaidasi. Esha, this, Deva, O Lord, Dite of Diti, Garbha, womb, Oja, semen, Kashyapam, of Kashyapa, Arpitam, deposited, Disha, directions, Timirayan, causing complete darkness, Sarva, all, Vardate, overloads, Agni, fire, Eva, as, Edasi, fuel. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation: as fuel overloads a fire, so the embryo created by the semen of Kashyapa in the womb of Diti has caused complete darkness throughout the universe. Purport: the darkness throughout the universe is explained herewith as being caused by the embryo created in the womb of Diti by the semen of Kashyapa. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to text 10 of Canto 3, Chapter 15 in the matter of description of the kingdom of God. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Jaya Pataka Swamin Itinamine Nama Acharya Padaya Nithaikapa Pradayine Gaurakatha Dhamadaya Nagragramatharine Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Gopi Paranadana Dase Itinamine Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Itinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Deshatharine Vanchakalpattarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripatamaham vande Shri Guruntarinam yatkripatamaham vande Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Katanchana smrite yasmin dushkaram sukaram bhavet vismrite viparitam syat Shri Chaitanyam namamitam. So here in this chapter, in this particular section that we are reading, we see how powerful Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were. Just by their coming into this world, it had engulfed the whole, this world rather, this universe. The whole universe had been engulfed in darkness. So, we know from our philosophy from the teachings of scripture that the subtle senses are stronger than the gross. So you have all actions start from the subtle platform. So Srila Prabhupada speaks about thinking, feeling, willing. So these personalities were so powerful that due to their demoniac nature, it even had an external effect of engulfing the whole world in darkness. So I was just thinking, what am I going to speak about darkness in today's class? When I was reading the verse, then I thought, actually, there's a lot to speak about darkness. A lot to speak. In fact, the very Mangalacharan verse begins with Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, every day we sing the Guru Puja song in the morning. Some of you may not know, but some of you may know that this song is Srila Narottam Das Thakur's purport to the Om Ajnana Timirandasya verse. So this is his purport to that verse. So the principle of or the method of overcoming darkness is to hear from a pure devotee of the Lord. So then we may think that members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, everybody hears from Prabhupada, but there are so many different understandings of what Prabhupada's teachings are, and with time it is not getting any better. When I joined the Krishna Consciousness movement, there is a certain mood balance and emphasis in the movement. Now it is different. All based on changing understanding of Prabhupada's teachings. So then, why is that happening? So, what we need to understand is that how do we gain knowledge? Now, this is a very important thing to understand. How do we gain knowledge? And this is not just in our Krishna conscious philosophy or in our line. Even Christian scholars and others have really debated this topic about how do we gain knowledge. So, as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, when we say we take knowledge from a pure devotee, it means that we understand both the spiritual world and how to live in this world from the pure devotee. So the pure devotee presents us an understanding of this world also. Of course, a pure devotee said that he may not know some details. For example, every pure devotee is not a medical expert, or every pure devotee may not know some particular, he may not be an IT specialist. No. But every pure devotee knows how this material world works. So Srila Prabhupada claimed that, definitely. So when we look at the world, we have to look at the world through the eyes of a pure devotee. Chakshudan Dilojay. So he has given us eyes. Why do I say that? Because of being in this material world since time immemorial, it is not that we are perceiving the world as it is. Definitely not. We are perceiving the world according to the state of our conditioning. So depending on how conditioned we are, we perceive what we call reality. But we are not actually perceiving reality. We can perceive reality only when we come to the platform of prema, or when we become fully established in love of Godhead, then we see the world as it is. Until then, we have to take what the pure devotee is showing us. So that is our torchlight. We need a torchlight. So the pure devotee is that torchlight. Because we are living in darkness, we cannot see. So because of this fact that we are conditioned, so then what happens is that when we stop seeing the world through Prabhupada's eyes, then we also, or rather let me put it like this, we see some parts of it through Prabhupada's eyes, some parts of it through our own understanding of what is reality. So then we slowly begin to get confused. I mean, we may not think we are confused, but it can be seen by certain effects. What is the first effect? I mean, I wouldn't say first effect. Let me put, what are some of the effects? No. So, we all know that Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us the highest philosophy. Not just the highest philosophy, how to live this philosophy. And Lochandas Thakur says that if you live this philosophy is Kevala Ananda Khanda. So simply happiness. Now when Srila Prabhupada appeared on this planet and when he traversed the world, this is the effect that he created. I am not saying the devotees did not have any difficulties during Prabhupada's presence. Definitely, living in this world, there are always some difficulties, lots of difficulties. But there was a certain spirit of Krishna consciousness. There is a certain experience of Krishna consciousness which Srila Prabhupada brought with him. That's why you see that his followers practically did things which are very difficult to imagine these days. Today many of those things appear to be fictional. They're not, but how could this be possible? People traveling to a country without any money, living just on Krishna's mercy, and establishing a whole movement. There are so many things which are very hard to fathom. Like I often tell the story of how Mother Jagatarani got married to Bhurijan Prabhu. She's coming for the premiere of her movie to Hollywood. Then she sees Vishnujan Swami and team leading Kirtan. And they invite him to come to the temple. And she comes and meets Prabhupada. And then she's very happy with that. And then she tells her boys to pack up her things. She moves into the temple. Within a week, Prabhupada tells her to go to Hong Kong and get married to a disciple of his who's trying to establish Krishna consciousness movement there because he's struggling to do it alone. He doesn't even know who it is. And she's not like some, so-called traditional Indian woman. She's an actress. And nevertheless, they did these kind of things. I'm just giving one example. There are many things which people did, which are unbelievable. But why did they do that? Because Prabhupada, by his presence, Krishna svadamopagate garma jnanadibhihasaha kalo nashta drishamesha puranarko adinodita. So the Bhagavatam which we are reading is brilliant as the sun. This dissipates all darkness. Now we know there are two kinds of Bhagavatas. The person Bhagavata and the book Bhagavata. So the person Bhagavata is the one who lives the book Bhagavata. So the person Bhagavata is also as brilliant as the sun. When you have the sun, there is no darkness. Everything is illumined. Here you see how the demigods, they're all worried. They're so disturbed. It's full of darkness. So a pure devotee brings that, he's like the sunshine. So when he comes, there is that experience of that ecstasy of what Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to bring us. came to give us. Kevala Ananda Kanda. So then, Prabhupada used very, very interesting expressions. Colonization of Sankirtan, the great transcendental adventure. These may look like very fancy words, but they're actually a fact. Devotees had that experience. Devotees had that experience. They lived that. And when you read the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, it is not that this appears like some fictional story. Suddenly you feel drawn into that. You also get a glimpse. You also experience a glimpse of this. So then, this is the effect of simply following a pure devotee. So that's why we sing in the Guru Puja prayers, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittete Koriya Aikya Arna Koriho Maneyasha. So whatever are the words of the Guru, we simply accept it in the innermost chambers of our heart, and we have no other desire. And Srila Prabhupada repeatedly said this, that the reason why the Krishna consciousness movement succeeded is despite the fact that his initial followers, most of his followers rather, during his physical presence, were not born in India. So they were not accustomed to what the Vedic rituals are and what are the different nuances of Vedic culture and things like that. So when he brought them to India, he knew that his god brothers would criticize him because they were totally unaware of all the fineness of Vedic culture and all the details. But Prabhupada said, they may not have all these qualifications. They have one qualification. Whatever I say, they do. So the whole Krishna consciousness movement was established based on this principle. So if we follow that same principle, which is that we look at the world through the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, we live our life through those teachings. Now, okay, let me go on to the topic of where we go wrong. Sometimes we think that we know, like for example, when we speak about Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Saishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtanaya Sadahari. What does this mean to be humble? What does it actually mean? Does it mean, Prabhu, everything is happening by your mercy? I was just in South India and I was at the Madurai Meenakshi temple and I happened to meet a group of devotees. So one devotee came to me and said, I don't know who he is, he also doesn't know who I am. We just started talking and he said, Prabhu, everything is happening by your mercy. I said, what exactly do you mean by this? You don't know me, I don't know you. You know, so, I mean, I'm not doubting the devotee, but what I'm trying to say is that that is not necessarily the sign of humility. Prabhu, everything is happening by your mercy. He may believe it, in which case, I mean, not by my mercy, but if he may have faith in devotees, which is a good thing. But this external thing, okay, Prabhu, behaving in a certain manner, talking softly, or these are what in English language they call as modesty. Behaving in a modest manner. But humility is something different. Prabhupada refers to it in some places as humility means intelligence. So, taking our everyday life, we should be intelligent enough to understand that even in our everyday life, when we process things, we are processing it based on our conditioning. So we should be careful. For example, when we are dealing with devotees, when based on our previous experience, we may have certain ideas. You know, sometimes I'm talking about gray areas. I'm not talking about black and white areas while dealing with devotees. I'm talking about some gray areas where somebody may say something or do something and you think, oh, this must be the reason he did it. See? You know, or that must be the reason. Why? Because based on our conditioning, we have a certain idea. If a person behaves in a certain way, this is what it means. So then we conclude based on that. And based on that conclusion, we have a certain opinion of the devotee. And then what happens is, we start behaving in that manner and then we build another opinion, then another opinion. And then very quickly we degrade into an offensive platform. So when we deal with devotees, if we don't understand something, or even if we think we understand, but if this is not something which a devotee is supposed to possess, let's say for example, a devotee, we think devotee's intentions are not right. Look at what he did, How do we know? How do we know what, I'm not talking about black and white areas again, but there are so many things that happen which are gray. So what are we supposed to do? We are not God. So humility means intelligence. We are not God. We are not Paramatma. How do we know what is the reason? What is the motive behind why somebody did something? Why not just go and ask? Being with a neutral mind, we can go and ask, Prabhu, this is what you did. I did not understand this, or this is what you said. I did not understand this. Now this may take effort, but this is necessary. This is necessary. I'm just giving a simple example. So the problem is that we think we know. We think we know. Humility means we don't know, especially when we're dealing with devotees. Okay. So I talked about the gray areas. What about the not so gray areas? Okay, where we see, okay, a devotee has committed some abominable action. What are we supposed to do? It is like black and white now. But again, there are two different kinds of abominable actions. One is sinful actions, one is offensive actions. So, for example, His Holiness Jayapatak Maharaj, he gives the example that he was with Prabhupada in Mayapur, and there was a devotee man who went to a prostitute in Navadvip. Sinful activity. So when devotees informed Prabhupada asked him, why did you go to a prostitute? He said, no, I could not go to my wife for sex because she's of the strong opinion it's only for procreation of children. So Prabhupada said, still you should have gone to her. But this is sinful what you did. So this is an abominable activity. But this is not an offensive activity. Offensive activity comes when it's both sinful and also there's a devotee involved. For example, in our movement, this is a very, very controversial and often talked about topic. Children have been abused. Now, is this just something you can just forgive? No way. Of course, it is an abominable action, but also they have to be forgiven. It's just because when we understand philosophy, we cannot weaponize it because based on our understanding. Yes, whatever it is. Proper Krishna says this. Look at this. Apichet suduracharo. Krishna is saying it. Yes, Krishna is saying that. But also, this Prabhupada is given a purport there. And also there is a whole thing about offense to Vaishnavas. So we can't just, based on our idea or our fancies, apply philosophy. We have to be able to reconcile everything that Prabhupada said. Everything that Prabhupada said. Otherwise, we'll develop some very weird conceptions of what is right, what is wrong. So we need to accept everything that Prabhupada said and be able to show how all of it is true. Now the reason that I'm saying all these things, I just spoke about subtle, I spoke about grey, I spoke about black and white, but my point is not the specifics, but the idea that we can develop our own conceptions of what is what, unless we take full refuge in Srila Prabhupada's teachings. I'll give you another example which I just recently encountered. So I saw some devotees who were going to a Vaishnava holy place. At the time when they were going, there was a talk that was going to happen by a great devotee, exalted personality in ISKCON, of course, a devotee of Prabhupada's follower. So I was wondering, they're going to miss a talk to go to a holy place? So then I asked one of them that why go to a holy place? So then when there's a talk that's just going to come up. So then the reply that I got was that according to our chart, there is some astrological problem. So a devotee astrologer gave a devotee remedy. What is that? Go to this Vaishnava holy place, do sadhana for 3 hours, and then you'll get out of it. So then, so we are doing that. But there's a problem with this. What is this? What is the problem? So, okay, then I asked, what is this logic? What logic are you applying here? So then they said that because we are not 100% pure, we have to take refuge in these things, but we are taking refuge in through Vaishnava methods. Now there's a problem here. What is the problem? Is this a recommended process? Is this a recommended process? Or is this coming from somebody's mind? It is logically sensible, it may make sense, but where is it coming from? Even in other systems of philosophy, other religious traditions, for example, Christianity, they have this thing of what is called, they have been debating this for centuries. It may not be centuries, but anyway, for a long time. There's something called rational theology, there's something called revelational theology. Now this, what I gave you, is an example of a rational theology. Rational theology means you use your mind or use somebody's opinion to do something which is so-called Vaishnava. But whereas the Acharya prescribed this, whereas Srila Prabhupada prescribed this, or whereas someone else, previous Acharyas, where have they prescribed this? This sounds very rational, sounds very nice, but where has this been prescribed like this? Where does it say that if you are not 100% surrendered, then you need to do these other things? Rather, our philosophy is, whether you are 100% surrendered or not, just practice pure devotional service and everything else will be taken care of. So, what happens is, I just gave you a few examples, but once we start using our own mind to filter the process of Krishna consciousness, then that experience, the great transcendental adventure, Ananda, Kevala Ananda Kanda, the spirit of Krishna consciousness which Srila Prabhupada brought, the spirit that you find in his life, what you find in his books, you will not live that experience. You will be living, I'm not saying you or anybody, it could mean anybody. So we will be living the experience of our conditioned understanding of Krishna consciousness. So then it becomes hackneyed, as Prabhupada uses that expression. He was fond of using that expression, hackneyed, which means that we'll wonder, oh, it's the same sadhana bhakti, it's the same process, and I need a change. Somebody recently made a video which shows about, it's called serious devotee versus, what's it? Serious devotee, something, casual devotee, something like that. So then it's an interesting video. It's a bit simplistic though, but nevertheless there is some fun in that. So where the husband wants to be on the beach and chant and all that, So then the wife is saying, look, there is a temple there and there's nice devotees, association, you're missing that to come and chant here on the beach. Anyway, so the point that I was trying to make is that, so then we start thinking, this is not satisfying me. This daily morning program, it's the same thing every day, coming to Mangalarti every day, hearing the Bhagavatam class every day. I need something else. I need some variety. So all these kind of things start coming in because of the fact that we are processing things with our own conditioned experience. Rather, if we just take what Prabhupada has given us, follow that. Philosophy is meant for living. Harila Prabhu's famous aphorism, philosophy is meant for living, life is meant for preaching. So this is what it is. So if we start living the philosophy the way Prabhupada has taught us, then there will be no dearth of excitement and happiness and contentment and peace and whatever else. All this is there. It's there. The moment we start processing Krishna consciousness through our conditioned experiences, then we are still in darkness. Still in darkness. We need to come in the presence of the pure devotee Srila Prabhupada. Only then we can experience this great happiness that he has come to give us. So this topic was about darkness. So I just wanted to say that darkness means also the way we approach Krishna consciousness. If we approach Krishna consciousness through our conditioning, we are still in darkness. So not to be in darkness means to approach Krishna consciousness the way Srila Prabhupada has presented it to us. Okay. I think I'll stop there if there are any comments or questions. Yes, Prabhuji. Janmashtami, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. So, from what I gathered from what you were saying is that Srila Prabhupada is just as accessible now as he was when he was before his Tirobhav. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There may be some small differences. Like, for example, I'll tell you my life, what happened was until I was a Siksha disciple of His Grace, Gopi Barandan Prabhu, until he left this planet, I used to wonder, why do people say Prabhupada is no more there and things like that, you know? Why would, I mean, I never felt any absence of Prabhupada in my life until that point in time. But when he left, then I began to understand there is a difference. What is that difference? It is that when Prabhupada is physically present, you could write to him and get a reply. You could get his answers to specific things. In that sense, definitely there is a difference. But he has given us all the general instructions. But for specific instructions, we have to take shelter of advanced devotees and follow. But how do we say? He's definitely present in the sense that the generic presence. We can't, how do you say, this is what, we may not exactly understand what is the specific thing which Prabhupada wants us to do. The generic things we know. All of us have to attend Mangala Arati, all of us have to do all these things, all the general things that he said. But what is the specific thing that I have to do in my life? That I may not know, for which I have to take shelter of superior Vaishnavas. Even during Prabhupada's time, of course, the temple presidents and the GBCs, not that everybody had that access. So, yes, I mean, I fully agree with you that Prabhupada is fully accessible. That's, in fact, he begins the Bhagavatam by saying, he lives forever by his divine instructions and the follower lives with him. And this is one realization I had last year when I was in Vrindavan, that when we say Vani, you know, so due to our conditioning, we may have the idea Vani is just a set of words and instructions, you know. But I had this tangible feeling when I was in Prabhupada's room in Vrindavan last April, that Vani is not just some words and information. Vani is actually a form, you know. So then, because Prabhupada writes in the Krishna book that when Krishna left Vrindavan, he says that Krishna was present in his bhava form, you know. So I take it that these books that Prabhupada has given us, his instructions, is his bhava form. It is a kind of a form. It's not just some words, and so you can associate with the form of Prabhupada even today, apart from the deity forms and whatever.
Excellent answer. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
To add to this, I think it fits. We'll see. I'll say it. Prabhupada was once asked by a devotee, how do we know what the temple president is telling me to do is Krishna's desire? And he said, you don't know. You have to judge it by the result. So there's always going to be some uncertainty in whatever we do. It's not that you have to have certainty before I act, because that's the nature of activity, you know, that's the nature of life. It gives it some excitement. If everything is clearly defined, where's the excitement in life? I already know what the result's going to be. I already know, you know, the challenges are. I already know how to overcome them. That's boring. So you have to have that, but your love is shown by taking the risk, having some faith, and then learning from the result. It's not that it's got to be perfect every time, but we're not bewildered when there's a mistake. We learn from it and we go on. You see, that's how your love develops. Like a child learning to walk, you know, in the sense he's going to fall down, or learning to ride a bicycle. There's going to be mistakes. But you can't expect the guru to hold the bicycle all the time for you. For the rest of your life, he's always holding the bicycle? No. You have to learn to ride it without him holding it. That's the goal. So, like as I mentioned there, as time goes on, you become more expert in it. So,
Thank you for bringing up that point. Prabhupada also explains this in one particular place where he says that, yes, we may not know whether something is, as you're saying, whether this is what is Krishna's will. So, as you said, one place he speaks about this, judged by the result. There's another place where he speaks about, he says just like in a military, if you follow your commander, whether the command was right or wrong, you're not responsible. Of course, if the commander tells you to fight against your own country or kill your own soldiers, obviously we are supposed to disobey. But otherwise, we may not know what is there may be 100 right things to do, or we may think something else is better, but we are not the strategists. So as you're saying, there's no excitement if everything is very clear. This is the only way, So that's part of I didn't think of it in terms of excitement actually, but it's good that you brought it up, that we just have to follow, as long as it is within the parameters of Prabhupada's teachings. Faith, yes. Faith. Thank you.
One other thing that occurs to me as to how we know whether we're in line with Prabhupada is, there's a lecture that Prabhupada gave in '72. I think it was either an Ahmedabad or Ahmedabad. I have to look that up. But he covers the peace formula. Then he enters into an analogy where he describes that just as a leader has many servants, and the responsibility of the servant is to please the leader. So similarly, as devotees, our responsibility is to please Krishna. And when Krishna's pleased, then we're pleased. So there's that transcendental reciprocation, and it confirms that we're doing things. We can do that for Prabhupada, we can do that for Radha Madhava, but there's that reciprocation that confirms, yes, this is what I want. And so that, you may be able to give me the reference, but there's several places where Prabhupada equates taste with faith. Have you ever seen that?
What I normally refer is that yayatma suprasidati, complete satisfaction of the heart.
Yeah.
Which is a taste actually.
Yeah, so in other words, if we do things that are pleasing to Krishna and we get that reciprocation, that gives us so much faith. I'm going to keep doing this no matter what, because it's what Krishna wants out of me. So I think that's a very significant point in terms of connecting with Srila Prabhupada after 1977. That is accessible to every single devotee. And that's why I always chant in the Samadhi, it's like amazing, the reciprocation that Prabhupada inundates one with. Many devotees find this to be the case. So, but just service that lines up, there's sometimes devotees get really bewildered by the faults that they see within ISKCON. It's a common occurrence. But Prabhupada said, England for all, he would quote Churchill, England for all thy faults, I love thee. So what I've seen, what I've experienced is that, see the faults and then do something about it. That's the best way to please Krishna, not just to be inundated with thoughts, this, that, and then become discouraged and not really want to do much service. And that's a common phenomena that takes place. But there's resolution to that, and that's how we show our love for Prabhupada. Just keep this institution intact, no matter what.
Thank you. Each of us can be an individual example of properly practicing. That itself creates a big effect.
Say it one more time.
Each of us can be an individual example of practicing properly, and gradually that will have its effect. Even if we are not trying to solve a problem, because sometimes people think, I want to solve some problem. Even if they don't want to do that, at least if they practice themselves nicely, that will have its effect. As Vaisheshika Prabhu says, it cannot be contained. It will snowball slowly. Yes, Mach.
Just to add to his point, an example we can look at is a child. Sometimes you give the child some paper and pencil or crayons, and they'll draw a picture of the mother. And they go, "Mommy, Mommy, this is you." And you look at it, you can't tell whether it's upside down or it's the right way, right? And the mother, you're holding it upside down. But how does the mother feel? She's like, oh. So even the drawing is so horrible, but the love that is offered with. And then she shows it to her friends, and they also go, oh. Everybody feels that love. So, you know, we're gonna, like Prabhu mentioned, there's going to be mistakes, but it was done out of love, but like you mentioned before, offensive means, was it done out of love or was it done knowingly offensively? That's two different things to distinguish. But something done out of love, which is a mistake, is still beautiful.
Mataji, last question, I think we have time. I didn't realize it's fast. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class and the inputs that you gave us upon the reflection of Srila Prabhupada's moment. The spirit that the earlier moment that had in Krishna consciousness, where you mentioned that literally the devotees were not having anything, absolutely nothing, probably no money, no place to stay, but the enthusiasm, the spirit that they had was compared to nothing. And you also mentioned that about like, you know, like they were very obedient to Srila Prabhupada. You would follow what Srila Prabhupada would say. Now, at the moment we come to the realization, the practical, that now Srila Prabhupada is not there with us, but yes, he is alive through his books, as you mentioned, and it's my realization also. You also mentioned that, you know, humility is intelligence, not always like saying that I am here because of that one's mercy or this one's mercy.
That may also be true, but I'm just saying that alone is not enough.
Yeah, so we to use our this. So I just wanted to know that, you know, that we do something that because we are not being told to do, or we are not being to be here to please somebody or to show off somebody, but it is the moment, it is the spirit that is telling us to do it. It is telling us to directing our feet, directing our mind, guidance, everything. Now, my question is, am I really pleasing myself, my false ego which is there within me, or am I really pleasing my Guru Maharaj, my Srila Prabhupada, or Krishna? Ultimately it is Krishna. So how do I figure it out?
There are hundreds of, even thousands of general instructions which Prabhupada has given. Distribute books. You're in Mayapur now, for example. I mean, if you have time, you can go out and distribute books. There are hundreds of things which you can do. But, for example, if there are things like, okay, you are living in some city now, and then you need to move to an entirely different place. That's a very complex thing, because you are involved, your Krishna consciousness is involved, and there may be people whom you may be preaching to, their Krishna consciousness is involved. These are decisions which we cannot just make on our own. We need we need to consult superiors who can see what we cannot see. So therefore, guidance is needed when it comes to these kind of situations. But otherwise, on an everyday level, there are so many things that we can do, which we are supposed to do also. We're not supposed to be thinking about every small thing. That's not what Prabhupada came to teach us. He's already given us so many things. Why not just do some of those things?
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so I think we'll have to stop now. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada